Okay, so now we've read in both of our data frames that we're going to be working with for this lab. So we've got the case rate data and the death rate data. That's one row per county with some information about the death rate or case rate each month. So in this video, I'm just going to show you the answer to a task you had above, which was to use the glimpse function to get a sense of the data. So if you recall, what we're trying to do here after we read in data is use a couple different methods to get a sense of it before continuing with analysis. So to glimpse, I'm just going to write the name of the case rate data frame here. So COVID monthly case rate. And I'm going to run that. And this is one way we can get a sense of, sort of what's in the data. So we've got the number of rows and columns. We have the columns listed out here and some sample values in each one. There are a couple other methods that we can employ to do this beyond just glimpse. Before we do that, I just want to go ahead and show you the answer to the next task you had here, which was to create a code block and write code. So, in most cases in this lab, what I've done is I've created some code blocks or sections in the document where you can write code. You don't actually need to create the code block, but for this task I asked you to create the code block just to give you some practice with doing that. So the way we do that is we start with 3 tick marks and then curly brace and the letter R inside of it, which says to the markdown file we're going to write some R code inside of here, and then we end it with 3 tick marks. Just one thing to note, a common problem people run into will be that they fail to close a code block, and so when you try and run it, it thinks that the rest of your document is still an open code block, and it runs in some text, and it'll throw an error here. So if you ever run into problems where code blocks seem not to be running, that can be part of the reason. Look for an unclosed code block. So just to show you what you should have done for this one, we're just going to glimpse, and then it was asking to glimpse the COVID monthly death rate data frame. And just a reminder here, you get this nice, RStudio has some nice features where it tries to fill in what you're writing for to allow you to write some more efficient code. So if I write COVID county monthly death rate, and I start typing that, it pops up, and I can just hit enter to populate it in the code block here. So I'm just going to run that, and same deal. We can just get a sense of the data with Glimpse. Just going to show you 2 other ways before we move on how you might get a sense of the data. You don't need to do this in the document, but I'm just going to show it to you here. So one is we can just create a new code block and just write the name of the data frame we've read in. So in this case, I'm going to write COVID county monthly case rate. This pops up. I can hit enter, and then I can just hit the play button here to run it. And it'll pop out the data frame below the document here. And so I can get some of that same information. I've got 3,000 rows. I've got 8, it's cut off, but 8 columns. I can cycle through the data to dig down a little bit deeper to see more rows than the glimpse function allowed. And I can also, use the arrow keys to move it over here to see additional columns. That's not super handy. Another way is to just click on the data frame name in the environment window, and now we can, it pops up like a spreadsheet. We can kind of move it over, move it down. We can sort. We learned we're going to be doing some more filtering in this lab, but we can turn on filters and we can just look at only say Arkansas cases or Arkansas counties. A lot of things we can do here. None of it is actually changing the data frame. This isn't preserved, but it's just a good way to get a sense of the data. So I'm going to end this video and then keep moving down the document to the next section.